Baseball and softball continue their tear in the RSC. Track and field named two of their own as RSC Athletes of the Week, while golf traveled to Newcastle for the Westminster Invitational. Pirates swept the Red Sox in Boston, while the Penguins fight for their playoff spot. NBA play-in tournament and playoffs loom over the sports world, while more off-season deals continue in the NFL. It's time to come on down to the Pioneer Sideline. Hello, and welcome back to Pioneer Sideline. I'm your host, Natalia Hillen. Point Park University's baseball team played in a 3-game homestand against IU Southeast this past weekend. The Pioneers won Game 1 5-3, lost Game 2 5-2, and won Game 3 10-9. In the first game, at the bottom of the first, Point Park was ahead 3-0 with Justin Oakley and Eddie Javier Jr. hitting singles to drive in a few runs. IU Southeast tied the game 3-3, but in the 6th inning, Carlos Burrows broke the tie and got winning runs on a 2-run homer. In the 7th inning, pitcher Easton Klein had a great game, getting the Pioneers closer to taking the victory. In the last 2 innings, Sebastian Rodriguez finished them off to save the Pioneers. He pitched in all 3 games, struck out 2, and walked none, and left 2 hits in the job, scoreless relief outing. The Pioneers won the game 5-3. In the second game, Justin Oakley got a 2-run homer in the 2nd inning, and PPU had the 2-0 lead. But later in the game, the Grenadiers won the 7th inning of the game with starter Tyler Yodowich and Garrett Hill getting 4 hits from the Pioneers. 5 Point Park pitchers pitched in 7 innings and picked up 9 strikeouts and 6 walks. The Pioneers took an unfortunate loss of 5-2. In Game 3, the Pioneers fought hard to take the win. Point Park was scoreless in the first 5 innings. Some key highlights of the game were Macaulay Brito was 2 for 4. He hit a homer and 2 RBIs. Justin Oakley hit a triple and scored a run. Isaac Santana's 2-run single at the bottom of the 9th in the final won the Wild. Amar Murillo had a single that started the rally as the Pioneers were down 9-8. Murillo finished 2 for 5 with 2 runs. Jared Campbell had a base hit and was 2 for 3 with a double, 3 runs, and 5 RBIs. After 7 innings, he also hit a grand slam, making the score 9-7. And Javier Cardoso pitched 4 2/3 innings, and John Hawley pitched 1 2/3 innings up to the 9th, down 9-8. And Sebastian Rodriguez pitched 2 strikeouts at the top of the 9th to get the win 10-9. Congratulations on the wins, boys. Point Park is 19-15 overall and 12-6 in the RSC. They will be playing against Seton Hill on April 11th at 3 p.m. and will play Penn State New Kensington on April 12th at Point Park's field at Green Tree Park. Good luck, boys. Switching gears over to Point Park University's softball team, as the Pioneers played against Oakland City University this past Friday and unfortunately took 2 losses. Game 1 ended with a final score of 13-1 and Game 2 was 8-4. In the first game, in the first 2 innings, the score was tied 1-1, as Sidney Reese delivered a sacrifice fly. The Mighty Oaks had a great 3rd inning, getting 4 runs and making the score 5-1. They got 7 runs in the 7th inning, which brought the score from 6-1 to 13-1. In Game 2, the Pioneers got a lead in the first inning 1-0, with Jada Simon getting an RBI and double with 2 outs. In the 4th inning, Oakland City had 6 hits, with 5 in a row, taking the lead 5-1. Point Park got 4 hits as Remy Coy got an RBI double. Melanie Taylor got a walk and Cameron Meyer got a run-scoring single as Sidney Reese hit a double with the top of the fence. The game ended 8-4 Oakland City. The Pioneers are 10-12 overall and 7-7 in the RSC. Point Park will be playing a doubleheader against Carlow University on Tuesday, April 11th at Fairhaven Park. Good luck, Pioneers. After the break, we'll hear from Hannah Bazet about how the track team did at RMU this past weekend. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now we send things over to Hannah Bazet to recap us on the RMU Midweek Meet and the Westminster Invitational. Hannah?
Thanks, Nat. Point Park's track and field teams competed in the RMU Midweek PR Bonanza held Wednesday at the P3R Track and Field Complex. Starting things off with our women's team, Emma Pavlik took 6th in the 100 meters, and behind her came Jordan Yaniga in 9th and Michaela Rice in 10th. In the women's 200 meters, Sideline's own Natalia Hillen placed 5th with her time of 26.33 seconds, and Yaniga came up in 6th with her time of 26.74 seconds. Hillen was also named RSC Track Athlete of the Week for her performance. In the 400 meters, Hillen took 2nd with her time of 1 minute and 1.04 seconds, and Rakia Ellsbury got 4th. Ashanti Farron got 7th in the 100 hurdles, Point Park's highest placement in that event, and following behind was Anna Eisman in 8th and Hannah Bond in 9th. The women's 4x100 relay took 1st with their time of 49.23 seconds, a PR for them in this event. This consisted of Yaniga, Hillen, Pavlik, and Ellsbury. In the long jump, Carson Hetzler took 5th with her jump of 5.20 meters, and Pavlik got 7th with her jump of 5.06 meters. Competing in the triple jump, 2 pioneers placed within the top 5. Hetzler got 4th, and Luchama Lubin came behind in 5th. In the discus throw, Maya Laturza got 7th with her throw of 25.71 meters, and in the hammer throw, Anna Jabozi placed 3rd with her throw of 40 meters. Finally, in javelin, Laturza placed 4th and Pavlik got 9th. The men's team racked up more points than any other team competing in the meet and left with many PRs on the day. Siobhan Fletcher had a huge performance, setting 3 school records on the day. With his shot put throw of 15.61 meters, he extended a school record he had already set and qualified for the NAIA Outdoor Nationals. He was also later named RSC Field Athlete of the Week. Also competing in the hammer and discus throw, he also extended his school record in the hammer throw at 43.70 meters and took the school record in discus throwing 39.02 meters. He took 1st in shot put and 2nd in the discus. In javelin, the pioneers took the top 5 placements of the day. Jakob Blatnick took 1st at 56.30 meters, Daniel Jacobs won 2nd at 52.75 meters, David Attram got 3rd and PR'd at 50.48 meters, Peter Durando got 4th and PR'd at 40.31 meters, and Anthony Billy took 5th. Both Jacobs and Durando PR'd in discus, and Durando also PR'd in shot put and javelin. In jumps, Collins Eze placed 1st in the triple jump at 14.45 meters, and Maxwell Good also PR'd and took 2nd at 13.11 meters. The pair also took 1st and 2nd place in long jump, with Eze in 1st and Good in 2nd. Jacorius Demps led the pioneers in the 200 and 400, getting PRs in both. He took 2nd in the 200 and 1st in the 400 at 50.41 seconds. Damir Stewart also PR'd in the 400 and took 3rd, and Demir Lomax came in at 4th. In the 100 meters, Juan Barrera took 3rd with his time of 11.34 and PR'd. Also PRing was Jonah Hartman in the 110-meter hurdles at 16.98 seconds. Later on in the week, the Pioneers traveled to Westminster, where they competed in the Westminster Invitational. Highlights for the men's team consisted of Demps taking 1st in the men's 100 meters, with Stewart behind him in 2nd and Lomax in 4th. In the 200 meters, Demps placed 3rd and Lomax took 5th. In the 400 meters, Barrera placed 3rd and Elijah James was right on his heels, taking 4th. Yannick Windelband placed 4th in the men's 1500 meters and 7th in the 800 meters. In the 110 hurdles, 3 Pioneers placed in the top 10, with Durando getting 5th, Lomax placing in 8th, and Hartman in 10th. The men's 4x400 relay, consisting of Demps, Stewart, Ramiro Ulunke, and James, got 3rd. In high jump, Durando got 2nd, and long jump got 4th, with Stewart coming up big in 1st place. In triple jump, Eze got 1st and Stewart got 2nd. Fletcher got 4th in shot put and 5th in hammer, adding to his already successful season. Highlights of the women's Westminster meet: in the women's 100 meters, Hillen got the highest placement in the event, taking 6th. In the 400 meters, Michaela Rice got 5th, and in the 800 meters, Alyssa Campbell got 8th and Allison Placio took 10th. Campbell also placed 3rd in the 1500 meters with her time of 4 minutes and 43.29 seconds. Hillen once again got Point Park's highest placement in both the 100 hurdles and 400 hurdles, taking 2nd place for both events. The women's 4x100 relay took 3rd, consisting of Ellsbury, Hillen, Bond, and Pavlik. Finally, in high jump, Pavlik took 1st place. Joining us now is Siobhan Fletcher. Siobhan, thank you for joining us today. First, I want to congratulate you on being named RSC Field Athlete of the Week. What did it mean to you to be selected for this honor?
It meant a lot to me because I'm like doing this all for my grandma and my mom, so it meant a lot for me.
That's amazing, and you've had an incredible season so far. What have you been doing to prepare for your events?
All I've been doing is eating right, sleeping right, not like do what athletes are supposed to do, and listen to my coach.
It all seems to be paying off because you've accomplished so much this year. What are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of qualifying for nationals, even though I've been plagued with injury for years.
Finally, what are your goals for the future?
My goals are just to keep doing as good as I am doing, or even better, with God's will.
That's all I have for you, Siobhan. Thank you for joining us today, and best of luck at this weekend's upcoming meet.
Thank you.
That's all I have. Now I'm sending it back to Nat at the desk.
Thanks, Hannah. Now let's hear from Jacob Kubik with an update on how the men's and women's golf teams did this past weekend at the Westminster Invitational. Jacob?
Thanks, Nat. The Point Park men's golf team traveled to Newcastle to compete in the Westminster Invitational at the Avalon Field Club on April 10th. The team increased their total team score by 2 strokes from the Grove City meet, shooting a .344 and placing 7th overall out of 13 teams. Junior Anthony Santilli led the way with an 8 over par score of 80. Santilli had 4 birdies and 4 pars on the day. On the player leaderboard, Santilli finished in a tie for 10th overall. Junior team captain Tyler Hillard was close behind Santilli for best score on the team, shooting a 10 over par 82. Hillard was unable to get any positive momentum going in the 8th round, but avoided the big numbers, having 8 pars and 10 bogeys. On the day, Hillard finished in a tie for 14th on the player leaderboard. Freshman Teagan McTeague had a 16 over par 88. McTeague struggled on the front nine, but was able to gain his form back, making the turn with the back nine 43 with 6 pars. He finished in a tie of 37th in the player leaderboard. Junior Jacob Kubik rounded out the scoring with a 22 over 94. Like McTeague, Kubik struggled to start off his round, but was able to score 5 pars and 7 bogeys on his round. He finished in a tie for 49th on the player leaderboard. The men's next event is the River States Conference Championships on Sunday, April 16th, and concluding on Tuesday, April 18th. Good luck, guys. The women's golf team have their first event of the season scheduled for Saturday, April 15th at the Avalon Field Club. Good luck, ladies. That's all I have. Back to you, Nat.
Thanks, Jacob. After the break, we'll get an inside scoop on all things local and national. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now I'll be sending things over to John Mayer to update us on how all things are going locally. John?
Thanks, Nat. The broomsticks are out as the Pirates swept the Boston Red Sox in their regular season series. Then the Pirates went to play their first series at home against the White Sox, winning 2 out of 3 games. Brian Reynolds shows why he deserves to get paid, continuing his hot start, as Reynolds is currently batting over .400 with 5 home runs, which is tied for first in the MLB. The biggest part of this White Sox series was former Pirates MVP Andrew McCutchen returning to play in PNC Park. McCutchen fought back tears as the crowd showed endless love. The Pirates now start their series against the Houston Astros, starting the series with an 8-2 loss against last season's champions. This series will be tough, but the Pirates look to continue their current positive record. Now on the Penguins news. The Pens are in control of their own playoff destiny for the second wildcard spot in the Eastern Conference after the New York Islanders fell to the Washington Capitals on Monday night. The Penguins only have 2 games left in the regular season as they will be playing against the Chicago Blackhawks, then they will be taking on the Columbus Blue Jackets. With their current playoff position, if the Penguins win out, they will officially clinch a playoff spot and reach the postseason for a 17th consecutive season. Now, on to Steelers news. With the NFL draft coming soon, the Steelers currently hold the 17th pick, and there are many options for the Steelers to draft. And 2 positions of need that could be in play at pick 17 are left tackle and cornerback. ESPN draft analyst Mel Kiper Jr. has the Steelers going in a different direction, however, having the team drafting Boston College wide receiver Zay Flowers. Other mock drafts have the Steelers selecting Penn State corner Joey Porter Jr., while others have offensive tackles Paris Johnson Jr. and Georgia offensive tackle Broderick Jones. The Steelers have added some defensive line depth recently, signing former Vikings and Bears defensive tackle Armon Watts after bringing in nose tackle Brandon Federico from the Chargers. This will add great depth to the Steelers' defensive line. Now I'll send things over to Gabe Ebersol for All Things National.
Thanks, John. The NBA regular season is finally wrapped up with all 30 teams in action on Easter Sunday, and the NHL follows right behind with its final regular season games this Friday. The MLB season is officially underway, and NFL free agency continues with the draft on the calendar for the end of the month. The first pair of NBA playing games take place tonight, and teams awaiting to see their first-round playoff matchups include the top-seeded Denver Nuggets and Milwaukee Bucks. These 2 teams have MVP candidate big men, deep rosters, and championship expectations, but not to be counted out are the reigning Eastern Conference champion Boston Celtics at the 2nd seed, as well as the 3rd seed of Philadelphia 76ers, who boast MVP frontrunner Joel Embiid. The West 3rd seed Sacramento Kings have made their first playoff appearance since 2006 thanks to the league's top offense. But their first-round opponent is the league's 2nd highest scoring offense, the Golden State Warriors, who also happen to be the reigning champions. Throw in KD and CP3 taking on Kawhi and Russ in the first round, and the resurgence of LeBron and the Lakers after the trade deadline, and we've got an exciting NBA playoffs on our hands. In the NHL, the Boston Bruins broke the single-season wins record on Monday and now hope to look to top off their historic season with a Stanley Cup. If the Bruins do ride their momentum to the Stanley Cup Finals, their opponent could be anyone from a very close field, as 7 Western teams are within 7 points of each other, including the reigning champion Colorado Avalanche. With the playoffs starting next week, we will see how the seeding plays out over the last few games of the regular season as we look onto the MLB. The MLB season has started off with a bang, as the Tampa Bay Rays become the first team since 1987 to start off 10-0 with an otherworldly plus 58 run differential to start the year. The Bucks boast arguably the best hitter in the league so far, in Brian Reynolds, currently 1st in home runs and 2nd in RBIs. The Houston Astros and Philadelphia Phillies are both off the rocky starts, owning losing records as of this moment, but with a lot of season left to play, they have plenty of time to turn it around. Switching to the NFL, marquee free agent Odell Beckham Jr. signs with the Ravens on a 1-year, $18 million deal, but the big question of Lamar Jackson's future in Baltimore still looms. Earlier today, the Atlanta Falcons received 2020's 3rd overall pick Jeff Okudah by only giving up a 5th-round pick. The NFL's main focus is currently shifting from free agency to the draft coming up, starting on April 27th. That's all I have for today. Back to you, Nat.
Thanks, John and Gabe. After the break, we come back with the case of the week. Stay tuned.
Hey.
Good evening and welcome to Newsnight. My name is Craig Verkowski.
Tonight, we'll cover all your international, national, and local news.
Australia is one of the most biodiverse countries on the planet.
Over 8,000 items are to be auctioned off at Pittsburgh International Airport on October 22nd. Last Thursday, the House committee investigating the January 6th attack chose to subpoena former President Donald Trump.
All this and more
Coming up on Newsnight. Welcome back. Today we're going to dive deep into our favorite Pittsburgh sports teams. With our city's rich history of sports, which team is the best over the rest? We have the big three: Steelers, Pirates, and Penguins. Today I'm joined by John, Gabe, and Ryan to hear what they have to think. So first we're going to start with all-time, either the Steelers, Penguins, or Pirates. John.
Obviously all time, you got to go with the Steelers. The most Super Bowl championships in the NFL with 6. Third for most NFL Hall of Famers with 32, only behind the Packers and the Bears. So you got 3 Hall of Fame head coaches, 2 already in Cowher and Chuck Noll. Mike Tomlin is well on his way there. 2 of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history in Terry Bradshaw and Ben Roethlisberger. Some of the best. You look at every single position, the Steelers have one of, if not the best of all time at that position. Joe Green really turned this franchise around in the 70s. And ever since that draft selection, ever since that 70s run, which behind only the Patriots, I believe is the greatest dynasty in NFL history, coming home with 4 Super Bowl titles, and adding 2 more in the 2000s era under Ben Roethlisberger and Troy Polamalu. You got 2 great eras right there. And the Penguins, you got to give them some credit with Mario Lemieux and Sidney Crosby, everything that they've done, winning 5 cups. The Penguins are close, but for me, it's obviously the Steelers at the top.
I mean, each of our sports teams here, we have some really star players that are very memorable and, all of it. Gabe?
I'm going to have to agree with John on this. I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers. Same reason he said, 6 titles. I mean, they have, since the NFL merger in 1970, their best win percentage in the entire league. You look at the legends that have played for that team, star-studded players everywhere, every single position. You could argue they have top talents in the history of the league at nearly every position. I mean, I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers as well.
So I'm actually disagree with both of you and say the Penguins is the best team overall. I mean, they've been consistent. I mean, you look back, past 16 years, they have been in the playoffs. Hopefully 17 from the night. They have a win percentage in the past 10 years is 6.29, which is next to unheard of. And then Steelers, you can say, well, the Steelers win percentage, they have a 6.23. And then we got, I don't know what you want to call them, a MLB team at this point, the Pirates at 4.81. But the Penguins are a consistent team. They have been the last team to win a championship in the city, and 15 in 2016. Steelers last time they won was 2009. My brother was born, and he's 13 years old now. It's too far. And then the Steelers have also won a playoff game in 2017. That's 5 years from now. I mean, you can say, yeah, they've been 8-8. 8-8 is not a winning season. So, because between consistency and all the players, you got to take the Pens on this one.
I don't know about that. Just you talking about the Penguins. Ever since, what have they done before Mario Lemieux came around? You bring up the Penguins haven't won a playoff series since 2018. I know their championships are more recent, but the Steelers just have that greater history, This city runs on the Steelers. They're one of the NFL's greatest franchises, if not the greatest franchise in the history of the league. I don't know if you could really say that about the Penguins. Honestly, when you look at all the Hall of Famers the Steelers have, the championships they've won, as Gabe said, the highest winning percentage, you just got to go with the Steelers.
I'm going to say the same thing, and the reason why is because the NFL is a quick turnaround league. Teams, usually it's hard to stay good for long, it's hard to stay bad for long. You have a lot of middling teams, whereas in the NHL, the Montreal Canadiens have won 23 Stanley Cups. I mean, the Penguins have the 7th most cup wins in the history of the league, and the Steelers are tied for the most Super Bowl wins. If you look at comparative to the rest of the teams in the leagues, I think that the Steelers have by far and away been more dominant in their league, and because of that, I think that the Steelers are the better team.
Well, you mentioned about the quick turnaround between NFL season and then the start of the next one. Well, the NHL is very quick too, because they end around like mid-June, late June, or especially with the COVID year, they end in July, August time. Well, they pick back up in October. They start practices in September. That's a very quick turnaround, especially the year that we won back-to-back. Sidney Crosby played a lot of hockey that year, and he was still in the top of that. So there's a lot of hockey played for these players. So I don't really want to say it's hard. It's easier for the NHL players to turn around for a quick season, because the season it's a long season and it comes back quick in the off season. So there isn't a lot of time for how NFL does when they're done in February and don't pick up again once camps like late August, mid-August. They have 5 to 6 months in between the Super Bowl, or not even if they make the Super Bowl, like the Detroit Lions, who haven't been in the Super Bowl for so many years. Like they have 5 to 6 months because they haven't been good enough to play in the playoffs. Where any of the hockey teams, we're in May now. They'll start their training again in late August and early September. That's only 4 months from now, which is not a lot of time for recovery and for injuries. Like Evgeny Malkin, he got hurt, had a wrist surgery in June. He didn't come back till halfway through the season because of the quick turnaround. So I don't know you can really justify about the quick turnaround in the NFL.
I think you misunderstood. I say quick turnaround. I mean that like when you're bad in the NFL, you get the number 1 pick. You can go get the guy that turns your franchise around. Whereas in hockey, you have to develop players. You have farming leagues. I'm talking that when you're in the NFL, like you get pieces. You can go sign a free agent, make a blockbuster trade. It's very hard to be bad for a long time in the NFL because the number 1 pick holds so much value. If you're a bad team, you're getting very high picks. You can flip those for players. You can draft those good top of the end players. What I'm saying by a quick turnaround league is in the NFL is that like if you see a team that's bad, you can bet in 10 years that they're going to be a good team because they're going to be able to take those picks. They're going to be able to develop players. They can just push those players and then they can piece it together to build a good team. Whereas it's so much harder to stay consistently good in the NFL than it is in NHL, in my opinion, personally, because we've seen the Penguins roll at the same core for how long now, and they've been good the entire time. And in the NHL, that's what I'm saying. Like you see 23 cups by one team, like that to me shows it's a little bit easier to maintain in the NHL than it is in the NFL. Whereas like 6 titles is the most by any team. Just by one team is 6. Whereas in the NHL, you're looking at 23 by one team. You're looking at, I think the Leafs are second. They have over 10. They have you're looking at teams that can continue dominant runs. Where in the NFL, just going back to back is insanely hard. Like we see with the Rams, they didn't even make the playoffs this year. It's hard to just keep momentum going in that league, and I think that gives the Pirates the edge. The Steelers the edge because they've been able to continue their winning ways regardless of that.
Well, I think we can all agree on one thing: it's not the Pirates.
Yeah, I think we can agree on that.
Right?
I think we agree on that one.
Steelers and Penguins are two different sports. There's really not a comparison, but as we can see, the Steelers have been very successful. Penguins have been pretty successful in their own ways. So let's hope for the future that we have successful games coming up. Well, that is all that we have time for this week. We hope you are able to join us next week at the same Pioneer time, the same Pioneer channel, and the same Pioneer sideline.